Let me tell you about a trap that we've all fallen into. We decide that it's finally time to change our lives for the better and romanticize ideas about how we're going to transform ourselves. We build this dream in our heads and tell ourselves that we're going to commit to the path of making long-term change. But when the time rolls around to go about actually making that change, we find that we're unable to achieve results. For the vast majority of people, our inability to get past our procrastinatory habits keeps us from making meaningful, lasting changes in our lives. But not to worry, this problem has a solution. In this video, we'll dive into the art of time optimization and mentality transformation, transforming how we approach our daily routines, and unlocking the secrets of not just getting things done, but hitting our goals with precision and purpose. For those of you that are new here, my name's Mike, and I'm a software engineer based in Seattle. It's my goal to give you actionable advice based on my own experiences that will help you no matter what stage of life you might find yourself in. With that being said, let's get into it. To get an understanding of just how pervasive procrastination is in our everyday lives, let's look into how much time people tend to lose just by procrastinating. Studies show that the average person spends 218 minutes per day, or 55 days per year combined, procrastinating. And when we consider that the average person is awake for only 16 hours of the day, we can calculate that the average person procrastinates for 23% of their waking hours. I want you to take a moment and think about that. For just about every 3 minutes of productivity that a person has in their day-to-day life, they spend a fourth minute wasting their time on something irrelevant to their personal growth. Now, I'm not saying that you have to spend 100% of your waking hours optimizing, but I do think that this number shows that there's an opportunity for improvement, at least for the average person. To put this statistic into perspective, let's consider an analogy. Imagine you're a restaurant chef preparing a gourmet meal. You have a limited amount of time to cook, plate, and serve your dish to perfection. However, instead of focusing on the task at hand, you find yourself spending a quarter of your cooking time rearranging your spice rack, reorganizing your utensils, and getting lost in thought about what to cook next. Just like the chef who wastes precious time on trivial tasks instead of focusing on the culinary masterpiece they could be creating, when a person spends a quarter of their waking hours procrastinating, they lose a quarter of their opportunities to make progress, pursue their passions, and achieve their goals. Their tendency to procrastinate can leave them feeling unfulfilled and unsatisfied, much like a meal that falls short of its potential. Now that we understand the impact of the statistics a bit more, let's go back into the psychology side of things so we can better understand how to overcome our tendency to procrastinate. Procrastination is largely an effect of a phenomenon called time inconsistency, which is the notion that humans tend to prioritize instant gratification over long-term rewards. Think of it this way. Imagine that there are two versions of yourself, present day you and future you. Additionally, imagine that you've set a goal to lose 20 pounds. While future you knows that in the long term, it's better to get yourself in the gym and hit that cardio session, present day you looks to the fridge and sees a delicious piece of cake sitting there and really wants it. Present day you ends up eating the cake, missing the gym, and saying, "Oh, it's fine, I'll go tomorrow." And this pattern repeats itself for a long time. While future you has the vision of improving your health over time, present day you counteracts your goal through consistent instant gratification day after day. And a year after you set the goal, you found that you've made no progress. Given our tendency to value instant gratification over long-term benefit, most people cannot rely on long-term benefit as the motivator for going about achieving our goals. Instead, we have to find a way to make the benefits of long-term choices more immediate in our day-to-day lives. One of the best ways that I've found to do this is through a strategy known as temptation bundling. The basic idea of temptation bundling is as follows. Whenever you're doing something that provides instant gratification, pair it with an activity that's beneficial to your long-term success, or just something that you need to get done. Here are some examples of temptation bundling that can easily be applied to everyday life. Listen to your favorite fantasy audiobook while running. Watch YouTube videos while doing meal prep. Enjoy a small favorite snack or drink while studying. As you can see from these examples, Combining something you enjoy with something productive can help you form better habits and make productive activities more appealing in the short term. I use this technique every day in my own life, and since I've implemented it, I've been able to vastly increase my productivity. Now, effectively combating our tendencies to crave instant gratification is one piece of the puzzle, but it's by no means the entire solution. Another common reason why people tend to procrastinate is due to a feeling of inadequacy or a fear of failure. An issue that many of us struggle with, myself included, is that we think we might not be up to whatever challenge it is that we're trying to face. In my opinion, accepting that failure is a legitimate and in most cases likely possibility is the first step on the path to overcoming those feelings and with them your procrastinatory nature. Additionally, I encourage you to have a deep moment of introspection and be honest with yourself about what areas you do need to grow in. But just remember that this is an exercise that should be done with love, not negativity. The reason I say this is because I believe that these types of activities are an opportunity for us to look at ourselves under an honest lens and genuinely evaluate what we need to do to set ourselves on the path to success. But when done with an improper mindset, these activities can be self-destructive, which is the opposite of what we're trying to strive for. Let me provide you with an example from my own life to give some context. I studied computer engineering in college, and it was my goal to get a software engineering job when I graduated. And not just any job, but a job at a prestigious tech company. When I was in the middle of my college experience, I knew that the time for applying for internships would eventually roll around, but I continually put off applying to top tech companies because I felt like I completely lacked the skill set to both get the internship and be successful in the internship if I somehow got it. Eventually, I sat myself down and gave myself an honest evaluation. I was a good student, but outside of my experience in the classroom, I had no relevant project work or experience that was applicable to the roles I wanted. I thought on it and said to myself, you can't possibly expect to succeed with all these gaping knowledge gaps. You need to fill the gaps to the best of your ability with the time you have, and even after you do this, success probably won't come immediately. The honest talk that I had with myself put things into a realistic perspective, but also gave me an actionable idea of what I needed to do. I created strong projects that I attached to my resume, one of which you're seeing on the screen right now, which honed my skills in multiple areas that tech companies value. Additionally, I followed an intensive interview prep routine leading up to the time before I submitted my applications. And even after all the prep I did, I still found myself surrounded by failure. Almost every company I applied to either explicitly rejected my resume or just didn't get back to me. But after many applications, I was eventually lucky enough to hear back from Microsoft and Amazon. I interviewed with Microsoft first, and guess what? I failed that interview. But did I let that stop me? Of course not. Instead, I used it as an opportunity for learning and reflected on where things went wrong in my process and what I could improve on. I prepared even more intensely for my Amazon interview loop, and after a very intense process, I was able to get the internship. The reason I give you this example is to illustrate what's possible when you face the reality of your situation, no matter how bleak things may seem at the beginning or even during the process. I transformed from someone who hadn't written a line of code before my freshman year of college to someone who had a full-time software engineering job at graduation. If I can make this type of change in my life, anyone can. I'll also say that no matter what the root cause of your procrastination is, another thing that's extremely important to do is breaking your path to success down into actionable, achievable steps. It's easy for anyone to say, I'm going to achieve X, Y, or Z, but what's actually difficult is crafting a plan to get there. Like I was talking about in my software engineering example, it's first important to understand what your success criteria looks like. In my case, the success criteria was a job at a prestigious tech company. Once you've defined your success criteria, you can break your tasks up into segments that can realistically be achieved in a smaller time frame than the overarching goal itself. And you can think of this type of segmented structure as analogous to a flywheel. As you hit each sub-milestone, you'll gain a measured understanding of the progress you're making towards your goal, and ideally you'll get a motivation boost as you see yourself slowly chipping away at it. This boost in motivation is what we call our flywheel effect, as your motivation should continually increase with each achievement. Again, relating to my example, I created actionable tasks to familiarize myself with specific programming languages and frameworks that would be useful within the industry, as well as for the projects I wanted to create. Here's an example of what my task breakdown looked like for one of my projects that contributed towards my goal of getting an internship. And for the sake of broader understanding, I'm abstracting some of the more specific software engineering terms to be more generic. As you can see in my task breakdown, I added specific milestones that I was capable of achieving in a short time frame. Each milestone could be completed in 1 week or less, and I planned it this way intentionally. With this type of structure, I was able to check each item off one by one and get a visual understanding of how I was progressing towards my goal. If I hadn't planned with such specificity in mind, I'd most likely have burned out, as I would have had no idea where I was in relationship to the finish line. If you're someone that suffers from burnout and the fear of burnout is a contributing factor to your procrastination, I highly recommend crafting a plan of attack in this style. And that about does it. If you follow any of the advice covered in this video, you should be well on your way to combating procrastination. I'll be honest, even I haven't completely overcome my procrastinatory tendencies, and I don't think that anyone can truly say that they never procrastinate. It's all about making strides to ensure that we're getting better bit by bit. As a recap of what we've talked about, try to remember these main themes. When possible, incorporate routine-based strategies like time bundling into your life. Acknowledge that failure is just one step on the path to success. If you suffer from burnout, plan your goals into small, achievable milestones that will motivate you to keep going. I hope you found the content useful, and if you did, be sure to consider dropping a like, and maybe even consider subscribing to my channel. I wish all of you the best of luck in your endeavors, and until next time, have a good one, everybody.